Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slight Edge book study. I am so thankful that you're all here and that you're investing in your personal and professional development tonight. My name is Leah Shea Groover, and I just look forward to sharing and learning with each of you. So, to start things out, I'm seeing a few new faces from last week. So, I'm going to do a brief recap of chapters 1 and 2. So, basically, it was very encouraging. At least I thought it was encouraging. It could also be a little daunting, but he outlined that every single person on this planet can either turn basically into an unsuccessful beach bum or a wildly successful entrepreneur. I definitely know which one I would choose. And going from failure to success, both can really happen for the same reasons. And that one reason will either work for you or against you, depending on how you're using it. So again, we just have complete control and complete responsibility for the actions that we're taking and the direction that our life's going. So these chapters were really interesting because they went on to say that, all the self-help books, all the personal development books, with all the quote unquote secrets to success and happiness, they may work for a while, but only while the techniques are applied, right? All the wanting, all the wishing, all the positive thinking, it's just really not going to help people to achieve their goals unless they have that first ingredient. And that first ingredient to successful thinking, which is often the missing ingredient to our success, is a person's philosophy. Now, we know that word to be a little bit different in our industry. We usually think of a philosophy as more of a thought model or tying our thought back to an action and really tying it to our why. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Why are we showing up every day? And it's just really also a love for wisdom. And so that was really just the kind of crux of those two chapters. And he went on to say, and I love this quote, I think it bears repeating, that he said he summed it up by saying that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. So let that sink in for a minute, because in short, it's not really what you know, but it's carrying out what you know on a consistent basis over and over and over again. So that's going to lead us to our next chapters. So Chapter 3 started off with a few fables, some parables, some really great stories. And I really loved the fable about the twins who were offered the same choice by their dying father. And they could either immediately get $1 million or 1 penny that would compound every single day. And the other story that really spoke to me was the water hyacinth, and it wanted to reach the other side of the pond. So how did it do that? Its little humble beginnings, it just grew and grew. It doubled its mass every single day. So the moral of both of the story is that those small beginnings can really lead to huge results. So in regards to the two twins, the one that took the $1 million ended up being in debt. And then the one that chose the penny was a multimillionaire at the end of the month. So the author really did a great job of using a variety of stories here to really kind of just drive this point home. So I'm curious, which of these stories in this chapter spoke to you the most and why?
So my favorite story was the little frog, because the one, he just gave up, and
right.
The one just kept going and going. And then all of a sudden he realized that there was something there. Mm-hmm. And it's really like our business. Like if we get started and we're going and it seems like things are going good. And then all of a sudden we just decide, okay, it's not going anywhere. I'm going to give up. And then we look at somebody else like Christina or Brittany, and the only reason they're there is because they kept going and they didn't give up.
100%. Great example. Yeah, that was one of I could really picture that story, that little frog just churning that butter, right? Anybody else have a favorite story?
Hey, Leah, it looks like there's a bunch of people in the waiting room.
They have all been admitted, but thank you so much.
Absolutely. And my favorite story was the frog story too.
Such great principles there. I will tell you the other one that really stuck out to me, though, was the fact that his mother was a millionaire. That, was that surely that compounding principle. So that really spoke to me, because it's not like she had some flashy job. It's not like she took on multiple jobs. She just was diligent with what she had and lived below her means. So I thought that was a really, really fantastic example. Okay, so sorry to those of you that were in the waiting room. You actually didn't really miss that much.
You don't want to hear it.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you're on, if you could mute your line, that would be amazing. What I was saying, for those of you that were in the waiting room, you really didn't miss that much. We were doing a brief recap of chapters 1 and 2, and we had just scratched the surface of chapter 3. So, Jeff Olson, the author, he went on to kind of say at the bottom of page 37, if you're following along in the book, he said, the single most important thing that I can tell you about the slight edge is this: it's already working right now, either for you or against you. So don't wait. And isn't that true? It's just the sum of our daily habits. So with that understanding, we come to know how these small, simple habits over time can really lead to wild success. But it also highlights the opposite that can happen to people. For those who think it's just easier not to start with the small habits, or unfortunately keep going with the bad habits, which over time leads to failure. So it's simply our choice. And he illustrates this even further with a picture on page 40. And I love that graph, because you're either on that up curve or you're going on that down curve. So I would love to hear from someone if they have an example how this has compounded in your business, either the upward swing towards success or the downward swing, because we've all been on both ends of this curve. Does anyone have an example of how that has compounded in your business?
Leah.
Yes.
Hey, I think I can share just from starting in Plexus. I was daily doing the small things that needed to be done to get to where I wanted to go. And, each month it just kept compounding, because I woke up early every day. I was showing up. I was joining the power hours, doing all the things, that I know we need to be doing for a successful business. And the past few months, I have allowed things to take my focus off of those small habits that don't seem like they're adding up too much. But last month I done one join. I've never done under 3. I've done 3 and more each month, not saying that in a bragging way, but just saying how habits do compound over time. And so my focus, I allowed things that was going on around me to take my focus off of those small habits that needed to be done daily. And I'm seeing the effect of it now. So I allowed that to get.
Thank you for calling Club Premier Servicing in Lincoln, Nebraska. My name is
Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I allowed that to get me feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, never really wanting to give up because I feel like I've come too far to give up. I wouldn't think of turning around and going back to where I started from. But definitely when I started reading the book, I just seen so many things that I could really, relate to, and just wanted to put it in perspective, seeing those habits as they compound, and so it's affected me good, and then it's affected me bad with my choices.
Daphne, I love that. And I want to first off say thank you for your vulnerability, because again, we've all been there, whether we want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
And, it is the trajectory, right? It's the trajectory of those daily habits and where they're going to take us. And that is exactly why you have been a master recruiter. You have been on the top recruiting list multiple times, and the same reason you went Fast Start Gold. So absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely appreciate that. So, I think that was a great example of, how this compound effect can really affect your business. Does anybody have anything else that they want to share, whether it be good or bad, and how the compound effect has shown up in your business?
Hey, Leah. I know you can't see me because it's dark in the car, but I just wanted to say that I have noticed. So when I started the business, I did not have a Facebook page. So I had to start from scratch, 0 friends. So one thing, 5 people a day. And so I was consistent with that, and of course you don't get them friending you back, all 5, but, in time, I've been doing the business for about a year. I'm at 998 friends. So how that has really helped is, I've been able to reach out to people that, and has helped business, found good friends, made new friends. But just that daily 5 friends a day, reaching out, sending out friend requests, 5 a day, added up in the long run.
Well, I love that. I love that, Deborah. And thank you for sharing that. I had no idea that you didn't have Facebook before you started, but you definitely have grown a following. And it goes back to those daily IPA sheets. And those are, of course, available on our team page. And I can even drop those in our chat after the call. But having a checklist that we can go down, and what seems like the small insignificant thing of adding friends, when you get to the end of your listing, you're like, oh, I've talked to all my friends. You're definitely going to be wishing that you had added friends all along. Ask me how I know. Okay. So, if anybody has anything else, I'd love to hear it. If not, we'll move on. So, most people, they just don't have the tenacity to stick with those simple daily disciplines that it takes to get them where they want to go, because they don't know how to look ahead far enough along that curve to see the results that they're creating. So can anyone think of a time when a simple daily discipline took you where you wanted to go, even though you did not see the effects of that in the moment? And this can be in life in general or in regards to your business, just a time that, you can think of simple daily disciplines that took you where you wanted to go ultimately, even though in the moment it didn't seem as such.
Leah.
Yeah.
I think a great example for myself is when I broke my foot this past year. how I can relate it to that is, you know, feeling like when it first happened and I first went to I remember going to my first therapy session. I felt like, okay, I'm never going to be able to walk on this foot again. I mean, there's just no way. Well, by putting in that daily action, you know, I remember the first several times of therapy. I mean, I didn't feel a change at all. But I consistently and persistently kept going back and doing the things that was needed. And so it took a little while. I wasn't seeing anything, wasn't really seeing much change, but then it was just like all of a sudden things changed. I could put pressure on my foot. And, you know, when I was thinking about this a week or so ago, you know, I was thinking about how, you know, we plant a garden and we plant the seed and, you know, it sits there for so long. We go out daily and we water it. And, you know, we see no effect whatsoever. And it looks like, you know, there's no good being done. But then one day we go back and there's a little plant, you know, starting to show. Well, I related my therapy to that for some reason. It just all just kind of started coming together, you know, about how if we'll just be consistent and even, you know, pray over everything. And that's what I do. I do start my day off with prayer and God. And I feel like that's the most important thing in my life. And everything revolves around that. But I just felt like, you know, the therapy just really related to that. And, you know, I'm doing great. I still have a little ways to go, but just with me being persistent over time, doing the things I needed to do, it's really made a big difference. Things I could not see at first, but it's definitely making a compound effect.
I love that. What a great analogy there with the plant. I think that probably can speak to all of us in different situations. Does anybody else have a time that they can think of when the compounding effect took effect in their life?
I
Can
do.
you
Leah.
hear me, Leah? Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Sarah.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Well, if my service is not too sketchy, can you hear me good?
Yeah, you're great.
So one thing I thought of was when I had my last son, and I was with him, I had gained the most weight, and I've always been healthy and fit my whole life, never really had, besides 15 pounds maybe, you know, weight. Like I'd never felt the struggle of back pain and your feet hurting just from standing. But I had gained like probably 70 pounds or something with him. And I was still about 50 or so over my normal weight. And I remember feeling like, am I getting anywhere? Like it hurt to walk. It hurt to stand. I didn't feel like I was doing anything worth, but the compound effect of just, I was determined. I'm going to keep doing the little things. I'm going to try, you know, this much and then keep adding to it. And I remember starting with squatting into the couch and then walking for 5 minutes and then walking for 10 minutes and then 15. And then over time, I kept building up and of course, eating good. And you know what I mean? Like the compound effect of that is that I got completely back to where I was supposed to be. And I think it was about 6 months or so that I was. And so anyway, that's just an example, one example, but with eating right and fitness and how you can do that, it might feel like in the moment, like, oh my gosh, I'm not seeing anything at all.
Well, that is a fantastic example, Angela. And, you know, I think a lot of the women on here can probably relate, after having a baby, you know, trying to get our bodies back. So that was a fantastic analogy there. What about you, Celeste? What were you going to mention?
And you can definitely relate to this, Leah. And also I just want to apologize to everybody about putting the call on the entire wrong Facebook page. So just want to throw that out there. I am going to re-record it. I just watched it again after in that little 15-minute, and you know, it was a good trial run. It was good, but I will record it. I'm going to talk to Michelle and see when a good time, probably tomorrow at some point. So I just want to apologize to everyone. I feel like the biggest blonde on the face of the earth. And yeah. So
You're just failing forward with grace.
That's what I
Celeste.
just right here, right there. Just just swimming toward it, but thank you everybody for the grace, and understanding. So, thank you. But, one of the examples I was going to give is in training a horse. So, when I was in my late teens, I had bought a yearling that I was going to turn into a show horse. And it's something that you don't see very immediately at ever. It's literally day in and day out, a lot of the same stuff. There's so much second guessing yourself. Because with horses, you're either training them or untraining. So you very easily can be doing something, you can be unintentionally creating a habit that you don't want. So, and actually to the point that he was finished, he wasn't really finished until he was about 4. So from 3 years, and I lived in the North. It was the daily discipline of every day out in the freezing cold through spring, summer, and summer's up there. Granted, it's only like a couple weeks, but it's as hot as it is here. But just that discipline, just to see it through. So I would say that would be one of the biggest daily things that I personally had went through.
That is also a great example. And yes, I can relate to that. That also takes a lot of patience. So this, this concept, the reason I asked is because most of us, when we think about something in our life, we can point back to an event where it's like, oh, that took a lot of daily discipline. That was a lot of mundane. That was a lot of effort, energy, and patience. And this concept, it really feeds right back into the gift of wisdom. Because without wisdom, people just, they're not going to stick it through. Without the wisdom, the fortune's going to vanish, which is where the philosophy, the thought behind all of that, the thought model and the why become crucial in our business. And this is where we can leverage growth, and the compounding progression is going to play out over time, just like the examples that we just heard from, just like the water hyacinth, just like the penny, right? So it's all about having patience and really understanding that those little steps over time are going to be compounded and make all the difference. This also, though, truly has to be coupled with faith that miracles still do happen. And if you trust the process and you know what right actions to take, that those things are attainable. So you must continue to be faithful in, what you've been entrusted to. You have to steward your responsibilities well. And again, trust the process. But most of all, you got to trust the creator of those processes, the principles of the sowing and the reaping. So can any of you, think of a time that you had to trust the process in your business? Because this business is a faith journey. So I would love to hear from some of you who have had to trust the process in your business.
I think one thing that I have had to trust is that when you plant the seed, like with someone, you just have to let it grow within them. I mean, you can't just push somebody into it, because I'm a pusher by nature, and I tend to push a little too hard and then it explodes. So if I could just sit back and be a little patient and just trust the process, that they will come to that realization that they want it. I mean, most people reach out to you and then you don't hear anything for 2 months and you're like, what are they doing? And then if you would have just been patient and just did a little follow-up here and there, then they come right back to you and they're like, I'm ready. That's me. I just need to, I have to have patience.
Yes. Trusting the process. I love that. Anybody else? Can anyone else think of a time or a situation where in their business, they're just having to trust the process?
I was gonna say, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines as Marlene with follow-up. Because usually if I don't hear from someone the first time, I have to deal with like mindset issues. And then it's like, well, just trust the process. There, the fortune's in the follow-up. So following up has proved to, I guess, yield exactly what we're told will happen in the process. So that's been like just trusting the process for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like you mentioned, the fortune is in the follow-up. And here's the secret. They all join at some point, right? They all join at some point, but it's not always in our timing. It's in their timing. It's in God's timing. So trusting the process that when they do join, it's going to be the right timing for them. So I love that both of you guys tied that back to follow-up. And having seen that played out in your businesses, that is fantastic, because this is what happens when we commit to trusting the process and taking the right actions. It makes the difference between everything. And this is not just in our business, guys, because here's the thing, we're in a relationship business. So even though we're talking about applying these principles to our business, it's the difference between growing a rich circle of friends versus loneliness, alienation. It's the difference between living, with vibrancy and abundancy versus having declining health. It's the difference between being happy and being miserable. It's the difference between being fulfilled and just living a life of despair. And it all boils down to success versus failure. So every choice that we make every day, every hour is contributing to this life of impact. Whether you break it down to your business, to your friendships, to your health, to your happiness, to your bank account, you could be that millionaire or you could be that beach bum. The slight edge is going to be your guide to learn the habits of the thought and the action that will allow you to choose wisely. And as I was preparing for this message tonight, I realized the Bible has a lot to say about wisdom. And I'm going to let you guys dive into that yourselves. But one of the verses that stuck out the most to me was Proverbs 4, verses 6 and 7. And it says, "Do not forsake, turn away from wisdom, and she will guard you and protect you, and she will watch over you." Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment, insight, and understanding. And when I was thinking about that, what that really means is we need to be actively seeking spiritual discernment. We need to be comprehending with a different level of maturity. And we need to really be logically interpreting what's going on in our lives, in any area of our lives. But most importantly, as it pertains to this, to our business, to really interpret what is going on and analyze what's going on in our businesses. So this is going to lead us to chapter 4. And so it started out with some really interesting statistics. And one of the things that we learned is that only about 1 in 20 people are successful with achieving their goals for life. So, guys, that's roughly about 5% of people. So these people who are achieving their goals in life, whatever areas you're looking at, financial, professional, personal, in the terms of relationships, health, really, whatever terms you want to look at, their lives are just clearly working for them. So I'm curious if anyone on the call would like to share if they know someone that they consider successful and if they would share why.
I would consider my uncle very successful. And the reason why is because he started out very small, farming, and he just continued and continued with just little by little growing his farm until he got to the place where he owned multiple farms. And then and he just compounded his, but he started out like hitchhiking a lot of places because he didn't have a car. That's how he started. And so I look at him and feel like he is like a picture of success. Now he owns 2 homes, and at one point he owned an airplane. I mean, he's just a very, very wise man with his money and how he invested it and worked with it, and went from very, very little to having a lot.
I love that. It's the humble beginnings, right?
Right.
Very nice. So does anyone else on the call have someone that they would like to share about?
I'd
And
like
thank
to
you for
share
sharing,
about my
Laverne. It was great
cousin.
to hear from you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
My cousin started out, he's my age, and started out as a carpenter. And him and my other cousin got married, and he took over my uncle's business. He went and got certified and just took over my uncle's business. And from there, he just grew it. And now he's a senator for our state.
Wow.
And he's got multiple businesses, but he's so grounded, and God has blessed him and his family so much, and you ask them, and they're like, God has blessed us with this and we're going to enjoy it as long as he gives it to us, but if he takes it away, that'll be okay too. But I see him and I know where they started, and just in a small home when they first got started out, and now they have a beautiful home. We have family reunions there, and it's just been so amazing to watch. But I didn't see the behind the scenes. And because of what we're doing with our book studies and meeting all the people that I've been blessed to meet with, it's just been amazing to watch. Okay, this is what it takes to do that. This is how that works. And it's just been a blessing. And I thank all of you guys for taking part and for being a part of helping me see that and to teach me all the things that I've been learning.
Oh, well, I love that, Laura. And I love the way you describe that he just holds that with an open hand before the Lord, right? Because it's not ours anyways. But that is such a great stance to hold those things with. So here's the good news, guys. The goal of this book is for you to be part of that 5% club. So the good news is, being part of that 5% club, it really doesn't have anything to do with your education, how much money you have in your bank account, how good looking you are, how many people support you, none of those things. The truth is that you are enough just as you are, if you're willing to start and stick to the simple task. However, it does have everything to do with understanding the power of the slight edge, just like Laura said, these principles, and how it's working either for you or against you. And, even the 5%, they probably don't realize what they're doing because, again, it's guided by a philosophy. It's a wisdom. It's a thought. And one thing that all these people have in common, they know what they want in life and they do it. which is why it's essential for each of us to really develop a strong why. A personal why would be the first step towards your success. And then understanding and applying the slight edges, and in time, you'll have what we desire, which is to be among the 5%, right? You'll be successful. So I don't know if you guys noticed in chapter 4, but one word kept sticking out to me. It was used over and over and over again. And that word was mundane. And the challenge is mastering the mundane. It's repeating those simple steps, those little disciplines that are done consistently over time that are going to add up to your biggest accomplishments. And many people, they fail because they expect that they must be doing something just that's important, so important, something that's earth-shattering, of gargantuan nature to make their dreams come true. And Jeff Olson, states that this is not the case. He explains that it's the act of turning the small, seemingly insignificant task into habits that will lead to bigger successes. So he also goes on to explain that people don't apply the slight edge because, again, they're unwilling. They're unwilling to take the action. So here's the big question. If the slight edge habits are so easy to do and they're going to lead to such phenomenal success, why doesn't everybody do them? He highlighted 3 different areas. The first reason is they're easy to do. So the simple things that lead to success are easy to do, but they're also just as easy not to do. So the difference between success and failure lies in whether you choose to take the action or not, because we all do, but 100% in which of those mundane actions you choose to do. So we're choosing to do something or not do something. So in light of the slight edge and these principles as it applies to our work, where do you see this play out in your business? The easy to do, the easy not to do.
I wrote.
Oh, everybody's jumping at this question.
Go ahead, Marlene. I just thought about it being in like the IPA and like what we had the call last week or 2 weeks ago where Michelle talked about like commenting on people's stuff on Facebook and then like sending them the messages and then the follow-up messages, and those things can seem really small and insignificant, and like I've actually talked to Marlene about it and be like, I feel like I'm not doing anything. And so then you just stop doing it because you think that it's not being significant enough.
Yes, great example. And I think Deborah also highlighted a really great example, with the adding friends on Facebook. It's so easy to do. It's also so easy not to do. So what else? Does anyone have another example in their business of something that's super easy to do and something that's so easy is easy not to do?
Yeah, I do. I think for me, it's so important to add value. And when I first started doing this, I had no idea what y'all were talking about when you said add value, and like, oh my gosh, what is value? What am I? But I'm learning, especially because it does it so well. And I'm so thankful for our team because they do that in their niche. Sometimes it's sharing a recipe, sometimes it's sharing a workout thing, sometimes it's encouragement, a Bible verse, just all kinds of ways. And so it's easy not to do because you think I got to do my IPA, I got to do the thing. But that really, I've just been challenged to do that more because it is super important. So that's definitely one thing for me.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And that's something that does take intentional time. It's easy to do, but it does take intentionality, just like all of these other tasks. Does anybody else have anything that comes to mind when they're thinking about, oh, that's so easy to do, but it's also so easy not to do?
I have something. So I think especially once I have a join, keeping up with relationship and not just like checking the box of retention. Because it's really easy to get distracted and be like, oh, now they're in the door, they're here to stay, feeling good, gotta join. But also like, I don't know, this is kind of vulnerable, but sometimes forgetting like this is a real person that I'm dealing with, and like relationship is important, and they trusted me enough to jump in. So I'm gonna maintain that and like build a relationship, because at the end of the day, they're a person, and that's what we're called to do, is love people well. So I think it's easy to be so on top of IPA that we lose track of the people that we already have, and it's really something that we have to be intentional about. So.
Oh, Madison, I love your heart on that, because yes, again, we're in a people business, we're in a relationship business, and just like no one wants to be sold to. And I think as a company, and especially as a team, we do a fantastic job of not selling to people. But we have to remember that once we onboard them too, like they're not just a number, they're not just, in the flow chart. Like we have to connect on a heart level. So that is fantastic. I am so thankful you brought that point up. Very good. So the second reason that he highlights is because the results are invisible. So the results are often invisible for a long time. So at first, we feel like the actions aren't really adding up. And let's face it, these days, we are just a culture of instant gratification. So it's easy for people to give up after a brief period of time. However, the things that are going to create lasting success, in the long run, they don't look like they're having impact in the moment, in the short run. So Olson, he goes on to state, and this is a quote from the book that I really kind of hit home here. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Now, I had already mentioned that, but the meaning of that is it's progressive. It means that, success is a process. It is not a destination. It's something that you experience gradually and over time. So that really stood out to me. And then he said, real success is built. By the time you get the feedback, the work is already done. So, just in life or in your business, however this may apply to you, have you ever gotten feedback where it was like, gosh, that was such a success. You did such a fantastic job, but really all the work was way behind you. But people weren't seeing that as, they thought, oh, she's an overnight success. When really, you've been rowing that boat for a long time. So does anyone have an example of that?
I do. So several years ago, I lost 140 pounds, and I really didn't share a lot until I had lost like 70 pounds. Mm-hmm. And so I had taken before pictures, but I never showed them to anybody. And then I showed them to people, and people thought that it just instantly happened, but it did not. And now I'm fighting that back again. And it's every single day. You have to, like, I count my calories in MyFitnessPal. I try to get exercise every single day. I try to eat clean every day. And those little simple actions, nobody knows those things, that I'm doing those things. It's just I showed the picture, and they're like, oh, well, that if she did that, then I could probably do that too. But they don't realize what it takes. Not to mention, you are jogging around our neighborhood faithfully every single day.
That's how I met Marlene. Every day she was out there running. I did not even know her. I'd be like, I see you. Keep going. You were faithful. Yes, friend, you were faithful. That's a great example. Does anybody else have another example where everyone was like, oh, look at the success, when really it was not overnight success? It was a lot of hard work. Does anyone else have anything?
I think for me, it was, oh,
Go ahead.
I was in Arizona, and everybody was seeing me at this 5-star resort and laying in the pool by myself. Like, all the photos, like, painted a picture, but I guess they don't know the behind the scenes until I show them the behind the scenes. So that kind of taught me a lesson about how to market and talk about my business on social media. But a lot of people were like, whoa, and they started to get attention because they saw something that's like, you know, deemed as super successful. So that would be an example, I guess.
You were just out there living that rock star life. No hard work in the background, right? You're just enjoying the resort. We all know that took hard work and dedication to get there. So proud of you, Madison. So proud of you. So reason number 3 that he gives is that they seem insignificant. So their habits seemed insignificant. People feel like those small, consistent actions can't make a difference and don't really matter. And again, it's so mundane that most people miss it, which is going to delineate the failure from the success. So what you do today and what you do every day matters. Because as you choose to do the things that are seemingly insignificant over and over and over again, you're creating the compound effect and it will kick in. So I'm going to leave you guys with a little bit of homework to ponder over. And it's 2 questions. And I would very much love for you guys to write these down. And I can drop them in our chat as well. But the first question is, if your philosophy lies in your why, in your wisdom, is your why strong enough? Or does your why possibly need tweaking? Possibly it'd be a wise investment to seek the Lord's wisdom in clarifying your why. So number 1, is your why strong enough? Number 2, I would love for you guys to filter every action you take. And I also have to say, or don't take, because that's part of the slight edge too, right? In your business, or quite frankly, in any area of your life for that matter, what changes do you need to make? So I want you to filter every action you take or don't take in your business, and what changes do you need to make as a result of filtering through those actions? And I guess maybe this is the second part of that question, but how are you going to make those changes become part of your lifestyle? Because it's one thing to have the awareness. It's another thing to have the implementation. And I think a lot of that really does go back to accountability and having people that you're accountable for in your life, or to in your life. So those are the 2 questions that I'm going to lead you with. And I'm going to close us out. Like I said, I found a lot of great verses about wisdom in the Bible. And I just want to close us with this one. It's Proverbs 13. No, I'm just kidding. It's Proverbs 3:13 through 18. Joyful is the person who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding, for wisdom is more profitable than silver, and her wages are better than gold. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. She offers you long life at her right hand and riches and honor in her left. She will guide you down delightful paths. All her ways are satisfying. Wisdom is a tree of life to those who embrace her. Happy are those who hold her tightly. So, friends, I'm going to leave you with that. I want you to go shine your light, be that joyful and happy person. And, the main point of these verses is pretty clear. Put wisdom at the top of your list. Set your sights on wisdom and pursue it at any cost. So, I'll leave you with that. I am looking forward to seeing you all again next week as Marlene is going to be presenting and leading discussion on chapters 5 and 6. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, Leah.